Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Health Hunt podcast, a human, humble, and sometimes humorous exploration of how to level up your health. This is part 2 of our conversation with board-certified health and wellness coach, Debbie Roppo. In part 1, we sat in that moment that so many people know, when a diagnosis stops you in your tracks, and you have to figure out, now what? Today, we pick up right where things start to shift. What Debbie did next. How her story moved from fear into action. We'll talk functional medicine, the lifestyle changes that helped her body calm down, and the important mind-body piece that took her from doing all of the things to truly healing. This is the transformational, uplifting, light at the end of the tunnel part of the story. So if you're in need of some feel-good talk, and I think we all are, get comfy and enjoy. But as you know by now, the Health Hunt podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We're not medical professionals, and nothing shared should be considered medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your health. Now, please enjoy part 2 of our interview with the inspiring Debbie Roppo. So here's where I really wanted to get into, first of all, because I know the outcome. So it's, I want you to walk us through what then happened and how you got to where you are today, because it's a great story, and I think it will be helpful for people to hear it.
Yeah. When I learned about functional medicine and I started to find what functional medicine is, think of it this way. For the people that are listening that might not really understand it, I love analogies. I love stories. So it's, if you're driving down the road in a car and the red light is flashing, danger, danger, right, in your car, and you pull into the mechanic shop and he opens up the hood and he just cuts the wire, and no longer is the red light flashing, and sends you on your way, which is a bit what traditional medicine does when it comes to just suppressing a symptom, right? In functional medicine, we get under the hood. Why is that light flashing? And that's what I really started to question. Why was my body attacking itself? What was going on for me? And again, it's going to be different for everybody. But I found that I changed my diet. I did a lot of things with that. I stopped drinking alcohol. I did, drink off and on for a while. Now I just don't at all anymore, just because now I'm almost 60 years old. I'm certainly don't need to be hurting my body in that way. Though I'm not saying people should drink or not drink. That's up to you. But I really changed my diet. For me, getting off of gluten was a miracle. It dramatically shifted how I felt right away. I don't think it does that for everybody. I really started to focus on what fed my cells, healthy fats, different things like that. I also went into movement to change how I was moving. I was doing a lot of workouts that were damaging, really aggressive workouts. And then I really got into yoga and stretching and being a lot more gentle with my body, honoring it more. And I got to about 75% where I felt, wow, I feel like really, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm doing really, really well. And I just couldn't get that next piece. And that's where the mental piece came in. That's when I realized, wait a minute, I've got something going on. The physical side was for me easy because like I said, I'm a buffalo. Are you kidding me? Give me a list. Boom, boom, boom. I'm just going to do it. And I'm extremely self-disciplined. Once I decide something, it's a decision. And so it was easy for me to kind of do the physical side of it. But the mental side of it, when I started to learn that every thought I had was a chemical cocktail going into my body, how my cells listened to how I spoke and what I experienced, that was a whole different ballgame, because for 40 years, I was 42, however old I was cruel. I was brutal to myself. And when I started to become aware of that and started to explore that side of it, that to me was the most challenging part. A lot of people think it's the physical side, but it wasn't for me. It was how in the world do you change your mind? Like, how do you stop being mean to you? And I didn't even realize how mean I was until that awareness came in. I remember researching this and I was like, wow, well, I'm not that bad. I don't really say mean things to myself until I started paying attention. And I was like, holy crap, you are so mean to yourself. You're so brutal. And that piece was huge. And so that was really the last piece. And then the consistency of being okay with 80-20, not needing to be perfect, being more gentle with myself. I'm not on any medication. I've never been on any medication. I don't have any problems. And it's been a long journey, and it's a lot of ups and downs and learning. But it's really been the physical with food, movement, and then that huge piece of the mind-body part.
Yeah. And we've talked about this too. I don't know if I mentioned, actually, I worked with Debbie for about 6 months where she was my health coach. And so we did all of the things with, food and all of those things. But the biggest component is the mental side. And the personal development journey that I have been on started maybe 2-3 years ago from a place of understanding how much it contributed to my healing. Because I'm someone who was kind of doing like all the things. And same thing where I get to a ceiling. And the way that I envision it, it's almost like there's like a gigantic cinder block above you that you can't poke through. And that cinder block is the emotional component, which makes sense because it's like, think about it in your head. And I don't mean in your head like you made it up. I mean, it's in your mind. So that, and I have 30 years of rewiring to deal with. So and I didn't start right away, but I always knew, this is why I'm so such a believer in the mind-body component, at least in my case, because I remember when it came on. And it came on at a time I was a very high-pressure kid. I put crazy expectations on myself to the point where I was scared to get one thing wrong on a spelling test. And I was trying to get into Harvard, and it was my last year of high school. And my body was like, we can't do this anymore. And I had all kinds of illnesses leading up to that, but clearly they went away, or they weren't enough to get me to stop. And so I'm a pretty firm believer that is the catalyst. And even then, I remember knowing, even when there were good days or better days, right around exams, my entire body would stop. It would seize up. I couldn't get out of bed. And it was that because an exam is a giant point of failure, right? If you've had a really amazing school year, those final exams could make or break you. And so the mental side of that, and again, we'll have people on and we'll talk more about this, but I love talking to you about this, and I love hearing that you had sort of a similar experience and that you were doing all the things health-wise, but then to get over that 80% hump and to really see a significant marked change, that was really the trigger for you. And also, I love that you're on a regular basis. I mean, everybody's going to have aches and pains, but you're essentially chronic pain-free.
Yeah.
And that's something I want people to hear, because you were given a diagnosis where you were told you were going to be in a wheelchair. And I've seen you in public many times, and they've never seen you rolling in a wheelchair. So
no, ma'am. No. It's interesting because I think the mental piece, I was again blessed. I don't know. I think that the great universe, whoever you want to call it, really, when I was a little girl, I would get the hiccups. Or I would get my stomach would hurt, or I would get a headache. And I would go into my room, shut my door, and sit on my bed. And I remember sitting like in a yoga pose, and I didn't know, in a meditation pose. I didn't even know what meditation was at the time. It was not on our radar screen at all growing up, right? And I would sit and I would get quiet, and I would make my hiccups go away, or I'd make my headache go away, or I would make my stomach ache go away. And it just was something that I did. I could do that, right? And that little piece, when I started to do the mental piece, when I learned, that came back to me like an ocean wave, right? It just washed over me, that the power do you remember when you were little? And when I actually just got goosebumps just talking about that, because it was such a powerful moment for me when that kind of connected, like Do you remember what you did when you were little, when you had faith and you believed and you didn't have all the nonsense of how we grow up and no, this is the way life actually works, right? When you were just in that magical time.
The best. How do we go back there?
Yeah.
Like we just need to go back there.
Right? Right. Where unicorns were still real. Right?
I love unicorns.
Like how do we do that? And so I do that to myself now. Right. And when you said that high stress moments, you felt it, I will do that as well. I call it tingling. I will be in an experience or, I'm a busy woman. I've got a lot going on in my life right now. Right. So and I'll start to feel the tingling. That's what I call it, where I'll start to feel like almost like a tingle in my joints. When that happens, I shut it down. Nope. Look at my schedule. What can I remove? Slow it down. And I just get quiet. I get into meditation. I really stop. I'm real conscious. What's your mindset? What are you thinking? Do you think you're behind? All of these things. And again, I'm able to stop that tingling from happening. And that is mind body work. And I know it sounds magic, like I'm talking about some guru, but it's available with training and with faith.
Yeah.
With belief.
Well, there's actual real neuroscience behind it. So I'm going to get someone who can explain it a little better than I can, but it's actually not just woo woo. It's real. And that's why your body currently loves you so much, because it's talking to you and you're listening. And, and you've learned how to ask questions. I mean, I've heard people that when they have a pain, they'll kind of stop and take a moment and almost ask it like me, what do you want? And that's...
Yeah. I'll say, what do you want? And it tells me every time, be quiet. I want you to be quiet. I want you to shut down. I want you to, okay. And I listen and the symptom resides. And I know that it's neuroscience, right? I know because I do this work. I've been doing this work for over a decade, right? I know what's happening. And once you start to know and then you experience it, it's extremely powerful.
Yes. And I think that knowing is important, right? Because you have to believe it. It's really hard to, you can't sort of like affirmation your way out of things because you feel it. Like how many times that people have tried an affirmation and you're saying it and you're like, that's not, you have an internal conflict. Like it just feels wrong. Like, it doesn't make it. I know maybe at some point, like fake it till you make it, you could convince your brain. But for the most part, that belief is probably one of the most important factors to allow you to then really open yourself up, remove the weight of the world in that sense. And
right. Yeah. And I think that that's why it helped me so much, because when I was little, I could do it. I remembered that. And then I sat and I was having my finger, this one right here, well, just killing me. And I sat and I made it go away. I was able to stop it. But again, it's not with a push, which is so not the way we do things, right? We want to push it. We want to make it. It's a letting go. It's a surrender. It's an allowing. It's okay. I'm okay. I'm right where I'm at. No matter where I'm at, mentally, physically, in my career, it's okay.
It's okay. And
that piece for me was powerful.
Well, that's important. And so that kind of brings me into the next thing I want to talk about, because I mentioned then Dan will joke because I say all the things, but I was doing, and this from when we met, like all the things. I have a ridiculous giant box of supplements. I was doing I knew all the things to do. And so first of all, that becomes overwhelming because you start your day with 1,000 things that aren't even work related, or I have my dogs. It's not dog related. They're me related. And so it's almost like I start the day with a full-time job, and then add that in that I'm on social media, sometimes just looking at plants or dogs, but social media reads my mind and it sends me 75 other supplements that I actually have to have, plus a mix of don't do these things. And then, like fear the air, the water. I think I saw something on Instagram where the guy was like, he went through 17 different types of water and there was something wrong with all of them. Like do the filtered water, do that. And so I want to hear sort of your perspective and also as a health coach, both for yourself and as a health coach, how do you navigate living in a world like this where there's so much information and also feeling like, health is something you get to experience and there's things that will be good for you, but that you're not going to die if you forget to take one supplement, because that could derail you. You could do all the things and then the 100th thing you didn't do and you tell your brain, oh my God, I didn't do that thing. And so there's no way you're going to feel good because you sort of prophesize that one thing was so important.
Yeah. This is oh God, I love your questions. Okay. So this is so important. So this is what I did. I went crazy and and then I found the blue zones. And there's the people that are living into their hundreds without any disease, and they don't go to the gym and they don't take supplements, right? These are people that live slow and easy. And that changed my world. I don't take a bunch of supplements. I take supplements as supplements to my food. So not every day do I take them. It depends on what I'm eating that day, right? I don't feel like, and this is going to sound maybe strange for some, but I don't feel like we have to do all the things, because I know that the slower I get, the quieter that I get, the calmer I get, the pure, the simple foods, right? Once you start to know that, it changed everything for me. Now I just eat really good, healthy, full, whole food. I love the rainbow eating, right? When I'm looking at the grocery cart, do I have something red in there? Do I have something orange? Do I have something yellow? Simple, it's fun. When I'm creating my food, I go pop AF, right? Is there a protein in there? Is there omegas in there? Is there probiotic? Is there an antioxidant? Is there fiber? Yep. Good. Done. Right. My water. So it's for me at this point in my healing process and how I live my life, the simpler, easier, slowest way I can do it, I believe is the best.
Yeah.
And now that we can think, especially in this biohack world, right? Where we got to go out, we're going to do 7,000 and do this and do this. I think that's just the opposite. I truly do. Not that all those things are great. We can do them, but it's the slowing down. It's the letting go. I feel like that's so powerful. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes. Even the way you're describing it, it feels like a relief, because I know this and I heard this and it sort of changed my mindset. When you're telling your body you need to do all those things, you're telling your body it's not healthy.
Yes.
There's a fear response and you have to do all the things, but also when you are in this, I have to heal, that is implicit in you're not healthy.
Sandy, what you just said there is the golden ticket today, because this is one of the things that I try to help my clients see. We often think of ourselves as our health is out there somewhere. Out there is that future healthy self. Someday I'm going to get to her. Boy, I can see her. She's incredible. She's amazing. I work with women. Yeah. Sorry, Dan, I say she a lot. Forgive me. But he too. Right? So it's just some future somewhere out there, something. I don't see it that way. And Sandy, I talk about, I believe she's in here. She's already here, and it's my job to unveil the unbeliefs, unveil the unhealthy eating, because why? If I love myself and I think that I'm this incredible divine creature, queen, well, I'm going to choose food that's really healthy because that's what a queen freaking eats, right? Right? Am I going to move my body in a way? So if it's this internal thing, and that's my whole inner empire kind of concept, right? That internal piece, I'm already her. I'm just unveiling her. I'm just taking off the veils of, your old beliefs and the way you think things are. I get rid of those. And as I've gotten rid of those, I've exposed this woman who is healthy and vibrant and strong. It's not something I have to go find somewhere out there. And maybe, hopefully I can get her. She looks great, but does that make sense?
Yes. And I just have to say for the audience, because they don't know you, this is the first exposure to you that they've had. Every time I have ever seen Debbie, this is her energy. And again, I'm sure she has, days where maybe she's tired, but this is her energy. And so what she's saying is legitimate. And another thing, and we've talked about this when we were working together, and I've caught myself doing this probably my whole life. And maybe it was a way of like procrastinating and not having to sort of do things I was afraid of. But I had that mindset of one day when I'm pain free, then I will do all of these things because I won't be exhausted. I won't be in pain and I can do them. And that's a very dangerous trap to get into because A, health is a moving target. And I kind of want to talk about that a little bit later. But B, again, that's reminding myself that I have pain and I'm not healthy now. And I'm just nonstop reinforcing it. So if you're always like, oh my God, I got to get healthy or I got to get out of this pain, then there's a sense of urgency that becomes very problematic to sort of the mind-body connection and it keeps you stuck.
So I'll say this. I just want to jump in really quickly. It was, I don't know Debbie very well. I'm getting to learn more about Debbie as we have these, and it's wonderful having her on. I will say this. If someone drops the golden ticket line and then goes to talk about things, if they're doing any Willy Wonka dropping, you have all my attention. So if you ever drop a golden ticket, I am all in. And every time you talk, I'm thinking, I'm a buffalo. I'm a buffalo. I'm a buffalo. And so Sandy,
that's a shirt. T-shirt. Oh, that's for sure a t-shirt. We've been joking in all the episodes, like we say things, but we are legitimately probably going to have a t-shirt line. And I think now the buffalo is going to have to make its way in there because that's just the best analogy. So
love it. Love it.
Very much love it.
Yeah. I love it.
All right, sorry.
I love it.
No, I love that. And I also got excited about the golden ticket. So thank you for giving that to me because I watched Willy Wonka, way before I even got arthritis a million years ago. Oh, I actually want to say this because you taught me this and I've talked about it and I've really held on to this. The label of my arthritis, I have arthritis is incredibly harmful because, and I know this, and I know this from all of the diagnoses that I've ever gotten, it becomes an identity of sorts. And it's almost like you can, I was diagnosed with spinal stenosis and I can see it and feel it in a visceral way. It's like literally I can almost imagine things grinding. And so I've been trying to change my language. And I know that you say I was diagnosed with, and I love that. I struggle with it a little bit because I feel like it confuses people. And because I still have pain, then I feel like it needs more context and people just understand when you say I have arthritis, but I haven't been tested in, I stopped having, getting medications and getting blood work and things like that for it. So it's been probably 10, 15 years, right? So I'm still using that reference in part because I think it's what people understand, but I'm aware of how detrimental that can be because I keep reminding my mind and body that they have this thing.
Yeah. We talk about that, and I know that you're going to have someone on that, with the more science behind it, but that our cells listen. We know our cells listen to everything we say, everything we think, right? So I always say I was diagnosed with, and there's this little part inside of me that does like a happy dance, like, yeah, that's what I was diagnosed with, but, right? I really have that. And my cells then know that, like, oh, wait. Right. And I know, again, this sounds guru-y and it sounds like it's woo-woo, but it's science. We know this now. We know that what our minds, right? And this kills me because if you just look at the placebo.
Yes.
Right, we know placebos are incredible. They can work incredible things. They're doing scans where they'll give someone say, I'm giving you this medication, and their body starts to react as if and it was never given, right? So the mind is extremely powerful. And so I never, ever say I have. It's always I was diagnosed with.
Yeah. And that's when you said that to me, it stuck with me. So I try and reframe it, but again, 30 years of using certain language, but when you said it, it was so profound to me. And I always had understood about the identity of, like, I'm not my arthritis. First of all, I don't want it. So like like, let's get rid of the because it's not something I want. It's just the language, when you break down some of the small words that you use, it's so powerful.
Yeah. Well, they even say, like, when they talk about, I think it's in the Atomic Habits or something, I don't know, where they say if someone that has smoked, right, and they don't want to smoke, if they say, I'm a smoker, I smoke, but I quit smoking.
Yeah. They're still a smoker.
As opposed to someone that says, I'm a non-smoker. Right? It's it's that they'll say that the one that is saying, oh, I quit, that means they identify, I am a smoker who's quit. That's their identity, that they'll probably go back to smoking. We know this. And that's when I'm listening to clients, when I do that first initial call, I listen to how they speak and I know where they really are, not where they think they are, but where they really are. Because if they're saying, oh, I'm a non-smoker, and then you talk, oh yeah, I used to smoke, but I'm a non-smoker. That person, they're probably not going to start smoking again. And I feel that same way with my own body, right? That if I'm identifying in myself, in my core self, I am the healthiest, most vibrant, strongest. I'm going to be 60 years old. I just the other day, I was thinking, because a couple of years I'll be 60 years old. And I'm like, oh, sexy 60, right? Like I am
That's enough.
So ready.
I'm getting you that t-shirt, FYI. You're getting a sexy I am
t-shirt. Ready for it. It doesn't, that age, that number does nothing to me. I don't believe in the, that's the decline, the aging, I don't. I can't wait for it. Bring it on.
Okay. Well, I want to be you when I grow up because I've got a big birthday coming up this year and I just don't, I'm ready to cry. I cry on my birthdays. That's a whole other discussion for another day, but I love that. But I'm excited that you brought up Atomic Habits because I want to hear more about how you work with your clients. And that's exactly where we're going to pause for today. Because what Debbie just shared is so important. A diagnosis may be the beginning of a chapter, but it's not the end of the story. Getting a diagnosis can feel like someone just handed you a life sentence. And if you've ever been in that moment, scared, overwhelmed, spiraling, we want you to hear this clearly. Debbie was told this was forever. She was told where it would lead, and yet she's here. She's living proof that the story you're told in the exam room is not always the whole story. In this episode, you heard what happened after the diagnosis, the shift she made, what helped, what didn't, and why the mind-body piece and slowing things down became the turning point that moved her from surviving to healing. So if you're listening and thinking, okay, but can I actually do this? Start small. Pick one thing from today's episode, one gentle change, one new question, one moment of self-kindness and self-compassion, and try it this week. And if you know someone who's been living with chronic pain, chronic illness, or a fresh diagnosis, please share these episodes with them. It might be the hope they didn't know they needed. Now, next week, in part 3 of our interview with Debbie Roppo, we zoom out and we get practical. How do you make changes that actually stick when you're exhausted, when you're overwhelmed, or afraid of failing? Debbie breaks down her coaching approach, and we get more personal with a few raw questions. So join us next week for part 3 of our conversation with Debbie Roppo.